It is truly inspiring to stand on this stage before all of you who have literally spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars and hours of your time to come here so that you could make the biggest difference in the world. And so when I think about what it's like to be in that position, that you're about to head back to wherever you're at, I think about how could I make the biggest difference to the people in this room. And I think about before I came to Monsanto and the long journey that it took me to becoming the person that's trying to help communicate on behalf of Monsanto out to the broader public. I think about the journey that I went through, where I was a U.S. Peace Corps volunteer in Kenya, where I worked at a small NPR station way out in Mendocino, California, when I was working at the World Bank. All of those things happened because I had the enthusiasm and the excitement that you have right now, because you're going to have to go through some really heavy, difficult work to get to places where you can make a difference. But when I think about the moments that you're having maybe right now, I think about the way that I felt when I was in your position, which is, I remember wondering how I would ever find someone that would harness the skills that I had. I wanted to do good. I knew I could do something for the world, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to be. And I didn't have any idea how I would get there. And at first, this seems like just a thought that you have in the back of your mind. Maybe some of you have it. But over time, that little fear can start to eat away at this enthusiasm and this excitement that you need to harness in order that you make the biggest difference in the world. And so when I think about the biggest impact that I can make, it's to try and get you to let go of that fear about what you will become when you go back home. And instead of thinking about your career, maybe I can offer you another way to think about how to have an impact. And I'll do that by telling the story of broccoli, and by telling you about why some of the dots on this map are brighter than others. 8,000 years ago, there was literally no such thing as broccoli anywhere on the earth. It didn't exist. You couldn't go find it in the wild. Instead, what people were doing when they were hunting and gathering was they were looking for this long, spindly weed that grew up along rivers. It had these leaves, dark green, and they had little lateral buds, and they had these tiny seed pods, and you could find them along riverbanks. And what people would do, hunters and gatherers, who were spending 80% of their time searching for food, is they would find this plant and they would eat it. And even though it tasted bitter, like mustard, they would eat this whole plant. And it was wonderful because it gave them a way to move forward into the next day, and they could keep searching for food. Until one day, someone figured out, actually groups of people all over the world at the same time figured out, hey, wait a second, if we don't eat all of the little seed pods, if we find the ones that are the bushiest, we can put them in the ground and we can cover them with soil and we can put a little bit of water on them and we can protect them from insects and we can protect them from weeds that want to steal the nutrients from them that are in the ground. If we can do that, then I don't have to go searching for food the next year. In fact, it will just grow up there. And if I choose the next year to only grab the biggest, bushiest seed pods, then the plants that will come from that, the progeny, will have bigger and bushier seed pods. And if you do this a few hundred, actually a few thousand times, you no longer have this wild mustard plant, you have broccoli. It is only expressing one large trait of these big bushy seed pods. And the wonderful thing about this plant, Brassica oleracea, this wild mustard, is that this is actually the same plant that gives us kale, it gives us kohlrabi, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, even cabbage. And you may be thinking about, what does this have to do with you? Well, no one set out to turn Brassica oleracea into broccoli. They did it because they were solving a problem that they had. That is what this graph here represents. This graph is the entire genetic family of all of the corn lines that Monsanto has. And people think of corn as just one thing, one giant monocrop, but as you can see, this is a galaxy an entire universe of all sorts of genetic diversity, and we use maps like this to solve problems that farmers have literally all over the world. And so, a few years ago, when the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Howard Buffett Foundation and USAID were working with farmers, they discovered a problem that those farmers had. They were raising seeds that produced at the same yields as people in the United States were yielding in the 1890s. And the farmers were saying, we want to improve these seeds, but we don't have the research and development budgets, we don't have the laboratories, we don't have the capabilities. And so we worked with these organizations to figure out which of these dots that are up on the wall would give us the ability to be able to solve problems that they have. You see, every one of those dots is connected by a line, and each one of the lines represents a problem that corn allowed people to solve. So for example, in Africa, one of the challenges that they have is that climate change is causing drought to ravage their corn crop. And what we were able to do is figure out which of our corn plants allow you to solve that one problem, and we're helping them develop water-efficient maize in Africa. This is a small problem that as each one of those lines is connected to more and more corn lines, it becomes brighter. None of them set out to solve one giant problem. We just get connected to single problems, and they become brighter over time as they get connected. When you think about going back to your schools or to your professional net impact group or whatever it is that you're going to go back to, you don't have to imagine, how will I do some grand thing? Who will I become to change the world? Instead, the way that you become a bright star on a galaxy map like this is by solving simple problems. And with each problem that you solve, you will be connected to more and more people who realize that you are capable of solving problems. And this will be the way that you will make a difference in the world. And so I'm so excited that all of the people here, over thousands of people that were here, that are going to go out in the world and make a tiny difference in the way that you interact with it. So I'm so excited for you. Thank you so much for inviting Monsanto to be here to answer your questions. Thank you so much for your time.